Welcome to the new episode of the podcast On the Spot. My name is Jovan Jovanovic. I'm former Serbian ambassador to Indonesia and ASEAN and also former member of Serbian National Assembly. Today's topic is the 46th ASEAN Summit, and I have a great honor and pleasure to host today Dr. Dinna Prapto Raharja, one of the leading Indonesian foreign policy experts and commentators. Thank you, Dinna, for being my guest again.
Thank you so much. Always great to meet with you and discuss with you.
It has been a very busy week, I know, for you as well. And before starting discussing the very summit in Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur, the ASEAN Summit, I would appreciate if you can bring closer to us ASEAN, because in this region, ASEAN is still not well known. Just to explain the evolution, the major milestones, and the importance of this region organization.
Okay. ASEAN, as Association of Southeast Asian Nations, was founded in 1967, and it has started mostly as an association, so informal gathering of Minister of Foreign Affairs, and then it started to realize that during the Cold War, basically it needs to upgrade its engagement. It cannot be just at the foreign minister's level. But the passion at that time was very clear. Southeast Asian nations should be free from external threats and the use of military aggression and external pressures to member states. So by being together, Southeast Asian nations wants to be known as a country that can uphold their sovereignty. So that's why in 1976, they had an important milestone, having its first treaty, the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. Basically, this is a unique treaty that where external countries are required to ascend into the treaty whenever they want to engage more seriously at the higher level, high-ranking level with ASEAN member states. Also in 1976 in Bali, there was an agreement that the gathering is elevated to the head of government level, head of state and head of government level. Since then, ASEAN also enlarged. Up until now, we have 10 member states, plus Timor-Leste is going to be admitted in October 2025. And then there was another discussion of expanding possibly to Papua New Guinea. So enlargement is also aimed at the same intention, to make sure that the entire region is not meddled in by external powers, especially the major powers. And to strengthen the cooperation, in 2007, 2008, the association becomes a legal entity. So since then, any decisions within ASEAN becomes legally binding, meaning that any agreements would have to be applied at the national levels. Member states needs to ratify as well whenever ASEAN agree on certain new convention. So basically, that's how ASEAN has transformed itself over the years. This year, there's also an important milestone, which is the ASEAN vision that was agreed upon during the 2007-2008 agreements of summit. Basically, there was a vision pledge for until 2025. 2025 ended. Now they have formulated another set of vision up until 2045.
Okay, so since you mentioned already one of the results of the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, what were the key issues at the summit and the format? There were some novelties. There was the first ASEAN, China, and Gulf Cooperation Council forum or summit, whatever you call it. And some stakeholders were also involved, like parliamentarians and business people and also youth. And it seems to me that it was a very, very ambitious summit, that there was ambition by Anwar Ibrahim, a Malaysian prime minister. So, how much this summit met these expectations of the Malaysia and also the other member countries?
In my view, ambitious is one way of saying how ASEAN has been proceeding this year. I'm even more courageous in saying that this year's ASEAN Summit, ASEAN under the chairmanship of Malaysia, is trying to revenge for the past few years where ASEAN seems to be just business as usual. So under Malaysia chairmanship, they try to do multiple kinds of new approaches for ASEAN, rejuvenating how ASEAN engage with each other. In the past, let's say 5-10 years, it has been viewed that ASEAN produced documents after documents after documents, where it can be, mostly understood as commitments rather than something that can be actionable. Now, under Anwar Ibrahim, he understands basically that ASEAN has been divided. All of these pressures may not formally divide member states. There are still joint statements, there are still joint communique produced by ASEAN. But on certain sensitive issues like South China Sea, like Myanmar, the agreements has been basically not as deep as what has been expected. And 2012 was the milestone, something in the history that's not, very happy in the ASEAN mindset, because we almost failed to have joint communique because of South China Sea. So under Anwar Ibrahim, number one, South China Sea issue gets new approach. And then second of all, in terms of investment, this is a tough year, right? Following the Trump slap of tariff across the world. It's not easy for Southeast Asian countries. And past few weeks ago, China, for instance, came bilaterally to 3 member states only, rather than coming into ASEAN with a deal. And then another problem is that, individual countries basically face efficiency in their budget, internal budget. So in the mind of Anwar Ibrahim, I think he was thinking, how can I come up with a model where investors actually come to everyone, and the agreement would come for everyone instead of bilaterally to member states. So he bring China together with Gulf Cooperation Council, and that's another what do you call it? A new approach, that Anwar Ibrahim proposed. He also did another meeting on Myanmar, which, at least he dared to take it to the next level, trying to push on the 5-point consensus. And then he also, this work of ASEAN Vision 2045 is finally finished. And then he also agreed to just take it up, accelerate the process to accept Timor-Leste to become member of ASEAN this year, despite the fact that, the economic situation is not necessarily good. There hasn't been much improvement in terms of economic capacity of Timor-Leste to join ASEAN, but nevertheless, he took the brave step to do it this year.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this new approach towards South China Sea. So what's new there?
Well, you know that among the ASEAN member states, there has been agreements, different approaches, I should say, to South China Sea. Indonesia, for instance, has recently agreed on a new boundaries, maritime boundaries between Indonesia and Vietnam. So with this new agreement, which, by the way, has been in making for more than a decade, has been trying to show China basically that ASEAN is moving forward. At least among member states, they agree on the delineation of coastal and territorial boundaries. So that's one. And then there's still a challenge of bringing along Philippines, for instance, to agree, because now they work closer with the United States instead of with other member states to protect their territories. So with this mixed messages inside of ASEAN, Anwar Ibrahim highlighted the importance of unity. And by bringing along, and there was also a bilateral meeting, right? Visit from China to Anwar Ibrahim before the summit. So I suppose this idea of unity, and which is then followed by bigger meeting between ASEAN and China, shows that there will be a new way that ASEAN try to approach this issue, and ASEAN will remain united.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that the new ASEAN 2045 vision has been adopted. So, what are the major points of this new vision for the next 20 years?
The key issue in this 2045 vision is that the future of member states are bound to be together. All the basic programs, I don't see any much differences, except that they added some new elements such as economic pressures, global economic pressures, and then digitalization, cyber threats, things like that. They're very contemporary rather than the previous document. But I think what I see is different is that ASEAN feel that the future needs to be fought together really as a shared future. Mm-hmm. Now, I myself has my own doubts actually on how implementable this vision in time of budget cuts and among all member states, and also among the global uncertainty, economic uncertainty following the efficiency across the board of all members. But as a document, I think we need something like this.
Mm-hmm. And you already mentioned that one of the key issues was this U.S. tariffs and the SLAP, the global SLAP, also SLAP to the Southeast Asia, to ASEAN countries. And will ASEAN have a united position towards the states? And we are experiencing very peculiar situation that one of the major architects of the post-war order, international order, is undermining this order now. And during all these decades, ASEAN and Southeast Asian countries tried more or less to keep this equidistance between US and China. This is the major rivalry. So having in mind this new policies of the US and Trump administration, could this balance be tilted towards China, which is already the major economic partner for ASEAN countries?
ASEAN countries. It's a very interesting and important question that you ask, Ambassador. I think, though, this whole dynamic is still very much ongoing and very much uncertain. That at the practical level, one can only try different parallel ways of approaching both China and the US and also other partners. So the best thing at this point is to send messages that shows that this region, Southeast Asian region, welcomes anybody who seek peace and reject anybody who aim to repress other countries, undermine sovereignty, let alone suffer people in the region. I think that message would go hand in hand with what Southeast Asian countries fight in the General Assembly in the UN, which you know that in June there will be a special meeting as well, right, to discuss about Israel and Palestine. For instance, one of the key global conflict that has been, sucking attention and resources also from other parts of the world. So in terms of China being, a very important partner to Southeast Asian countries, I think China is nowadays inevitable to any countries in the world. This Belt and Road project that they have developed since 2013 has been successful in many places, successful for China in terms of securing easier and cheaper logistics, which in my own analysis, I did a short review on how the Belt and Road actually affect trade in the region. It has been, unbelievable. If you look at the data, basically Chinese logistics is taking a majority of hubs across the world. So you cannot basically do tradings without engaging with Chinese companies. So their way of building webs of businesses, webs of trade is tied hand in hand with their infrastructure development commitments through the BRI. So if you are a peaceful country, you wouldn't see this as, a security threat, but you would rather see this progress as an opportunity. We should think about ways to make sure that China doesn't create debt trap, doesn't create, dependency that we don't want, that undermine our sovereignty, but always leave behind suspicion that would allow you to use arms proliferation, for instance, against China. That's something you should remember, which the US part have problems with, right? The US part always try to, tend to invoke security dilemma facing China, which to us in the region has been very, very problematic.
Mm-hmm. And Anwar Ibrahim, if I'm not wrong, called for the ASEAN US Summit to be held by the end of this year and to discuss all the open issues.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And since you are coming from Indonesia, which is the most important country, the largest country of the region, what is the Indonesian's position on this geopolitical shifts, especially in the world and global shifts, and also in your part of the world?
In terms of architecture, Indonesia believes in multipolarity, so doesn't believe in hegemonic unipolar model can be peaceful for all. So even the model of bipolar tension is still okay to Indonesia, so long as you don't deploy arms proliferation. Now, this is the key issue here. We are very concerned in Indonesia, given that businesses nowadays, we're not just talking about, the conventional businesses, but also defense industries. Given the conflicts that has been ongoing in different parts of the world and the challenge of making them sit together and have negotiation or started negotiation for peace, Indonesia starts to see that the big stake is actually tension will still continue rising given the arms proliferation. So my president, I think, is still very much more pragmatic than I. I would rather think of a more strategic distance with the issue of defense industry, but him as a military man, former military man, somebody who proud himself as a military man, would use this moment in time to modernize Indonesia's military capabilities. And I think it's to some extent it's timely. And if you look at the kind of deals that Indonesia is trying to do, we're not buying the most expensive and the most advanced, and we are being very cautious to make sure that the diversity of weapons is, suit with the peaceful intent. But it's a very dangerous game out there. I can see that we have to be really careful. And as I said, I would rather, if I were him, I would rather keep a little space to allow some more peaceful talks happen before you demonstrate more passion for Indonesia's modernization in defense armaments.
Mm-hmm. And you already mentioned the upcoming UN debate on Israel-Palestinian conflict, and during the French President Macron's visit to Indonesia this week, just as we speak, there was a controversial statement, I think, by President Prabowo that Indonesia is considering recognizing Israel. So I would appreciate if you can say a few words about also this controversial issue and the very visit of French president.
Well, I just spoke to a national media an hour ago, and my key comment is that I regret what the president has said, what my president has said, for at least two reasons. Number one, how can he ignore the dynamics, the existing progresses that already been made in the UN and also in Europe, because we're talking about Macron and his fellow Europeans in the European Union. And number two, why you should mention the importance of also recognizing protection for Israel. It's like, I never thought that's even in the concept of Indonesian foreign policy. We are very stern in saying that number one and always a priority is Palestine, and it's not very easy to secure protection for Palestinians. So it's, to me, he wasn't so wise in saying this.
Well, anything else about this President Macron's visit, which is still under shadow of Vietnam, visit to Vietnam? We all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, a few days ago, I discussed about this visit, and one of the things that draw my attention most about Macron is that France is also facing its own challenge domestically. Economically, it's not in a good situation per se, energy-wise, and also in terms of industries, not only the conventional industries such as automotive industry, which very much unbelievably, French cars has been out competed by Chinese products. And then also the armaments issue. I think one of the key issue that was discussed behind the door at that meeting between Prabowo and President Prabowo and President Macron is that deal, which is why also President Prabowo took him to Magelang, which is the military academy site in Indonesia. He wants to show this is, where Indonesia's heart is, military heart is. And, one of the things that Indonesia has been trying to secure with France is the deal. If we buy Rafale, and it's not a small amount. Well, compared to China, of course, China bought more from France, but Indonesia is also, for our capacity, economic capacity, that's not a small number of, purchasing of Rafale. the Indonesian expectation is for France then agree on transfer of technology, starting from MRO, which is the agreement to service, maintenance, and overhaul of aircraft, the jets, and also to develop submarine together. So Indonesia really tried to improve its capacity to take care of its own equipments. Before Macron came here, India offered such service, so that if Indonesia buy more weapons, the one who will take care of the maintenance and all will be India. And Indonesia has been very sensitive to that, thinking that we are going to buy a lot. Bit by bit, Indonesia is such a fast country too. So you can imagine anybody with deals to do maintenance, services, overhaul would benefit a lot. So Indonesia would rather keep that benefit to Indonesians as well.
And I know that it's maybe a short period of time, but can you just assess the differences maybe between the foreign policies of the former President Jokowi and now Prabowo? Is a more active foreign policy now during the Prabowo's administration?
Prabowo preferred to do head of state to head of state kind of dialogues and even agreements. Now, there's something positive, there's something negative also about it. If Prabowo actually being very inclusive in decision making, being just the locomotive of negotiation is fine. But the challenge with him is that he thinks on his own feet without much engagement or even, sometimes very spontaneous ideas, which is why you notice if people pay attention to debates within Indonesia and, responses like from people like me, we often, get surprises like, how come you didn't consider this factor and that factor? Well, because he is a very spontaneous man, and he thinks that the key to any dialogue is exchanges of personal ideas and feeling even between head of states. That's what makes it different with Joko Widodo, who basically keep a distance from that kind of personal engagement and give more chance to the foreign minister to do that part.
So we can compare President Prabowo to some extent to President Trump.
Yeah. And even he seemed to be very comfortable also with President Xi, right?
Yeah. And what is Indonesia's position on the war in Ukraine and relations with Russia at the moment?
With Russia, bilaterally, we have been having long-term bilateral relations, diplomatic relations. During this war happening, there has been visits actually from Moscow to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, talking about visions of Russia as a country, their decision-making process under this pressure of war and all. So exchanges of ideas has been very friendly. At the practical level, though, it's very tough, this relationship. I mean, beyond dialogue, beyond dialogue has been challenging. The US has been applying CAATSA, what's the terminology? Basically, that's the sanction from the US to any countries who, buy military equipments from enemies of the US, so that technically we cannot be closer at the concrete level with Russia. And then in terms of trading, it's very challenging to be closer to Russia given logistics issue and basically all the logistical connection has always, you have to go through China basically for us from here, or to, as I said, logistics has been relying a lot on China. So with Ukraine, dialogues has been happening as well. Not only G2G level, but also civil society to civil society level. I was invited to Ukraine and ended up talking in a forum to discuss. It was ended up in Zoom, yeah, because we didn't get the access from Europe to come on time with the visa. But the idea here is that we want to get to know the people in Ukraine and how they also can push for peace. At this point in time, the Indonesians start to see that Ukraine's leader is not sincerely interested in peace. So if Ukraine is truly interested in peace, number one, they're not going to support Israel. Number two, they are actually not continuously, changing narrative when Ukraine face Russia. So this, that's the overview of how Indonesians feel about Ukraine and Russia. But we look forward to them actually sitting together, yeah, for negotiations.
Well, I think the question is whether Russia is interested sincerely in peace. If you see these attacks on civil targets, etc., in the last few days as well, so it's a very
Yeah.
complicated issue. So, is anything else you would like to add for the end of our conversation?
Well, I think it's a very daunting time I would like to highlight not just the government to government relations, yeah, but also people to people relations. At this point in time, among Southeast Asian countries, we are facing, very big pressure in terms of mobility across borders. I never thought that this can be even feel more pressured than during the COVID-19 pandemic. Cost becomes so high, to travel from one destination to another. And communications with social media has been, basically creating its own biases. AI has its own technological biases that the youth still have challenge in, and job creation has been really, really challenging, even in this part of the world, which people say is a center and epicentrum of growth. So to us, any bit of intent to sit together, discuss open opportunities is much better than discussing about armaments.
Yeah. So, Dina, thank you so much for your deep insights.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being again my guest. And I hope that both Indonesia and ASEAN would successfully navigate this stormy
So much.
waters of geopolitics, shifting geopolitics. So, thank you
We'll
again.
keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Take care, everybody.